Working men.
Hello everyone, this is channel Station Marx, and today we have with us Griffin. You can know him from the interview about the peace report.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's nice to have you with us. So we wanted to ask you about the hot topic, about the talks around the impeachment of Trump. Can you say something about it for our audience? Is it real, or was it just fake news, or it was like it doesn't have any real stuff under it? And which are the consequences to all who are included in this story?
So trying to impeach Trump has been the strategy of the Democratic Party for years now. And it has proven again and again to fail. And if we take the Marxist perspective on this issue, we know that it is not the state, the government, that can control society. It's the ruling classes, the bourgeoisie, the capitalist class, the imperialist class, who controls the state and exploits the proletariat, the working classes. Now, if we take this Marxist analysis, then we know that Trump has done nothing but empower the ruling class, the capitalists and imperialists. And if we look at history, the only president to either be impeached or resign was President Richard Nixon in the 1970s. And I think we can compare President Nixon to what Trump, to the so-called impeachment of Trump today, and draw parallels or disconnections. So the difference, the main difference between Nixon and Trump is that Nixon, despite all of his flaws, he actually did pass a lot of progressive bills and acts where he supported labor unions. He had the support of a lot of labor unions in the US at that time. He created the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, along with many other acts and bills, and as well as open up relations with China. Now, if we look at what Trump has done in the past 2 years since taking the Oval Office, he's done pretty much the exact opposite. He's gutted the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. He is in a trade war with China. He is not supporting the working class whatsoever. He's passed tax cuts for the billionaires and millionaires in the U.S. He has continued the wars for the imperialist class. He has made threats towards North Korea, Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, so on and so forth, in empowering the weapons manufacturers, making their stocks grow and grow time again. So he has done nothing but provide a service for the capitalist and imperialist class. Therefore, why would the bourgeoisie want him out of office? Yeah, there are some splits within the ruling class right now that I think is just in its infancy and will maybe grow further in the next 5 to 10 years as the U.S. imperialist state declines in global power. But there's no reason to really impeach Trump. And the Democrats, that's been their strategy this whole time for the past 2 years. And so the Marxist analysis is that it's not the state that controls society, it's the ruling class. And the ruling class wants whoever to be in office that keeps empowering the ruling class, allowing them to exploit the working class to continue increasing their profits. And Trump has done nothing but that.
So that's a kind of interesting situation when they're trying to pull out from the office the man who done his work well for the bourgeoisie. And what should do in this situation, or say the Marxists and all over the world and Marxists in America, should they support one or another side, or should they use this case for like agitation or something?
Now, let's not put all Marxists into one category. There are revolutionary Marxists, there are reformist Marxists. There are a lot of social democrats that consider themselves Marxists and socialists. But they are, and that's the main difference. The reformist bloc of Marxists believe in electoral politics or achieving socialism through parliamentary struggle. And then there are revolutionary Marxists. There are revolutionary Marxist-Leninists. There are revolutionary Marxist-Leninist Maoists, so on and so forth, that understand that socialism has never been achieved through parliamentary struggle. And I think we have to go back to the Second Internationale with the debates between Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks against people like Bernstein and Karl Kautsky, who Bernstein and Kautsky took the reformist line and said, we can achieve socialism through parliamentary struggle. Guess what? We've had over 100 years to prove that that has not worked. And the only way to achieve socialism is through revolution. And that's the split between many of the Marxists in the US. And, you know, we live in an imperialist country here in the US. People are very comfortable, and a revolution threatens their way of life. So they feel more comfortable just to go to the voting booth and just sign off on the next president or the next candidate because it's much, much easier. But if we look at history, that's just not a correct historical materialist analysis of the concrete conditions of today and the past.
I guess you're right, and that's where we can conclude that there are no big difference for average people who they see in the White House, either Trump or either that funny guy about the case of the scandal. I forgot his surname. Biden, yes.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden.
There are quite equal for people, and there are little moment. This whole scandal emerged from the Trump's talk with new Ukrainian President Zelensky, and Zelensky was quite a little rough about the Europeans, about the Merkel and Macron in his talks, and saying about his truly loyalty for the America and Trump personally. Do you think this is kind of a way where different countries have to choose between imperialists from Europe or America, or it just something that doesn't exist?
I mean, that just reminds me of the three main contradictions with global capitalism. One is there's a contradiction within many countries, mainly imperialist countries, between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Then there are contradictions between the oppressor nations or imperialist nations against the oppressed nations. And then you have the contradictions of imperialist nations to other imperialist nations, where they are constantly fighting over markets, which led to both World War I and World War II. And we are, beginning, the contradictions are sharpening between imperialist countries today. But this goes back, we have to study the concrete conditions of our nation, of our local communities, of international relations, and the whole entire globe in order to really come to an analysis where we can build strategy and tactics. Now, I believe that Russia and the US are both imperialist countries. Therefore, the proletariat in these countries should always be anti-imperialist, but also the main contradictions are between the bourgeoisie and the working class, and they have to focus on this. Compared to like an oppressed nation, mainly in the global south, like Latin America, Africa, and South Asia, is they have to focus on national liberation. Many of them are colonies or semi-colonies. They're being exploited by Western imperialist nations, and they have to focus on their national liberation struggle. And all of us really have to be worried about, especially in the imperialist countries, we have to be worried about this inter-imperialist struggle that is emerging in now the 21st century, where they are China and U.S. are both competing for resources in Africa. Same thing in Latin America and South Asia as well. But you also have more contradictions sharpening between Western countries in Western Europe and the U.S. and North America as a whole. But I can't go over every single condition, but that's the main thing. Is like, just like Vladimir Lenin said, we need a concrete analysis of the concrete conditions. And it takes a lot of effort to do that, but we can do that through the lens of Marxism, through the lens of Leninism, and I would also argue the lens of Maoism as well.
That's I think is right thing to do. So thank you for your commentary. It was really interesting to hear, and I think our viewers are also very interested in seeing it. So thank you very much for this commentary. This was Station Marx, and we had Will Griffin with us from Peace Report. Links in the descriptions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, in solidarity.